Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddee P. I'm your host, Maddee P. Girl, what is cracking, queen? How's it going? I haven't seen you when this is posted in like a week. As you can tell, I'm sick. We all know it's my whole personality when I'm sick, okay? We listen to our body. We stop around here. We listen to our body. And I hate being sick because the glute game, girl. Y'all know I'm crazy about the working out. Like nutty, honestly, about it. And I swear, 2 missed workouts, my glutes are like flat. I swear to God. Ugh. And I was just getting to like a good ab part because y'all know I've been working on the 6-pack. I want a set of abs so bad. Been eating real clean. I sound disgusting and I'm sorry about that. And I was getting, because of swimming, I was getting these like boy abs. I don't know how to describe it. They were like not shaped the way I want. I want that line in the middle. You know what I'm talking about? And I was getting to that sweet spot. I was hitting the right workouts combined with the right swim, and then I got sick. Luckily, it was mostly over the weekend, so it was good. What the fuck? What's cracking? So, for the very first time in the history of the Autopsy ever, we're coming up on 50 episodes, girl. What the fuck are we still doing here? Honestly, what is going on? I did not post a video last week. I was sick. Okay, so like, here's the thing. It's Thanksgiving this week. The week that I would have posted. It's Thanksgiving. We got the holiday season. I got a lot of shit going on in my life, okay? And then I got sick and I hadn't filmed before I got sick like I usually do. And then it's like too late. So I'm filming today. It's a Tuesday. Thursday is when I'm not posting. I decided yesterday I'm not posting. Because two days to edit and do all this when I could just relax and have a nice week and recover from being sick. And I'm already like over pushing myself. Why am I getting up to film and do glutes today? Literally just had a fever, but I can't be still like this, y'all. I had 1 full day of hanging out, doing absolutely nothing. Just resting, attempting to hydrate, and that's the most I can give it. Like I can't. And I shouldn't come on here and tell you that because you know health is important to me and I want you to be healthy. So do as I say, not as I do, because I get real stir crazy real quick. I got a lot to do. How many times am I going to say that? What's going on? Y'all, I've been dating again. Scratch that. I found my man. I'm not dating for shit. I'm not on the market, babes. But I'm just saying. So I told y'all that I would be vulnerable and come talk to y'all about this because it's a passion of mine to talk about dating and sobriety and like the fact that you don't need no man. Y'all know how I feel about it. Like, and I told you I'd come up on here and talk to y'all about it and whatever. And like, now that it's happening, I'm not. Not happening. I'm not going to talk about this man, y'all. But I'm happy. That's all that matters. And if you're thinking about dating again, give yourself so much time to where you don't even question compromise, which was something that I was struggling with leading up to dating. Like, I talked to y'all some about it, but I could not compromise. Like, it's my life and I live this certain way and this certain schedule and I eat certain things and I do certain shit. And when that gets fucked with, I don't like it. I'm not a control freak, but get up out my house though, you know, like, and you need a man that doesn't make you feel that way. And that is what I am receiving. Okay. At this time, in this moment in space that we are talking today, that is what's going on with me. So maybe at some point later down the line, we'll talk about it, but yeah, girl, I know. Did y'all ever think me, the male hater, would end up in this situation? I didn't. I surely did not. I had lost hope, y'all. Completely. And I came on here with a smile and told y'all to keep looking. I didn't mean that shit. I did not mean that shit, girl. I had given up hard. So. And another thing that y'all piss me off with. I'm sorry, I'm like delusional and I'm realizing I think I'm still running a fever, but that's okay. Y'all remember when I filmed an episode with COVID? That was crazy. That wasn't even a good episode. I watched Perfect Neighbor. That bullshit y'all have been telling me to watch. That documentary. It sucked. It was trash. As somebody who is a, true crime watcher. Love true crime. I live alone, so I try to refrain a little bit because I get scared. I can't even lie. I get scared. And y'all, it just wasn't worthy. Like, it was sad. It was horribly sad. That little boy crying, that was sad. It was a lot. And I got the gist as to why they did it, to show what's happening in America and stuff. But, like, it was boring. I was so tired of hearing that bitch speak. Looking busted and crusted. Just talking shit. Talking out her ass. And it was annoying. So, and maybe, I'm no movie critic. Y'all know the shit I watch. The Hunger Games and stuff. Please. Please. I don't think I have any room to speak pretty much ever. So, don't listen to me. I did watch A Star is Born for the first time. And I did not know what I was missing. I've thought about it several times since the day I watched it. I have always been a Lady Gaga girl. Y'all know this. I am like pop icon. I love the pop girls. My OG pop girls. Love them. And Lady Gaga has always been that bitch. Far surpassing the rest of her genre. Anyone else ever. Her vocals are insane. And her acting. I could not get enough of her. On that screen, she was just amazing. Like, I fell in love with her. I got why Jack was on that shit. And I had no idea that it was, like, so addiction and alcoholism based. And sometimes, y'all, movies like that grind my gears. Because I already lived it. And it kind of makes me sad to watch some of them. I do like I don't know. I like there are certain ones I do like. Like Beautiful Boy, I will never watch that movie. I will never watch that. People tell me to watch it all the time. No. I do not need to relive the pain that I put my parents through. I do not need to see that. And that's how that would make me feel. So, Star is Born, literally, that was like one of my favorite movies I've ever seen in my life. I can't even lie. Love me a good pill poppin' cowboy man. I gotta say. Jack was, he was a nut, but he was a good actor too. I enjoyed. I digress. Do I have any other warm-ups? I'm just sitting here kind of chatting with y'all. And to be honest, I don't feel good. And y'all know it's my personality. Let me get a sip of this throat coat tea. Throat goat. I can't believe I told y'all about my man. I'm sick in the head. I'm delusional. This tea tastes like ass. And not that it matters. And I don't want to keep y'all updated on this, but y'all know Ellie's breathing situation. She just has really bad anxiety. The vet tells me again. So she's on these new gummies, and that girl is fucking thonked out on the couch right now. Y'all, I am clung to this vape again. I'm sorry about it. Like, y'all remember when I quit for a little bit? I was so alive, but like I was in so much distress. Y'all remember I was tweaked without that thing. But like, I swear it was like getting sober again. Like, the sky was fucking gorgeous, but then like every 30 minutes I would just get really pissed off. So it's just kind of like an ongoing battle, I think, that I would just live in. And right now, currently, it is glued to me at all times. And I'm just going to be honest about that. It's not going anywhere right now. I'm living by the vape while I have this shit going on too. We're here to be vulnerable, right? So today, what do we have going on, girl? This week I thought it'd be fun to touch on the holidays and drinking and making it through the holidays without drinking. I am going to share some, words of inspiration to keep you sober, keep you wanting to hang with your pals. That was disgusting. Hang with your pals. What the fuck is this, Bluey? To hang out and then be vulnerable. Also about some of my stories, past experiences, and the past holiday season that I went through sober. So I will start by saying, as I often start by saying, some bullshit. I am blessed. We all know this. I live my life in just this cocoon of love and enrichment and blessings in this life that I have built for myself. And it is just amazing. I truly love my life. And I have fantastic, extremely supportive family members who have helped me through all of my struggles, aside from sobriety to the side, all the shit that I've been through in my past. Some stuff y'all know about, some stuff you don't know about. And they have just been there for me through thick and thin, and also supported my sobriety like no other. They wanted me sober, girl, real bad. They wanted me to knock it off real bad. And a lot of people do not have that. I cannot connect with you if you do not have that today, is what I'm saying. That sounded bad. Like I'm not going to come here. You're not going to get what you need from me if you are somebody who is suffering with lack of family, lack of support. And I really feel for you in that realm, but I can't pretend that I know what that's like, because I simply don't at all, at any realm. I will talk about some aspects of that for people who are really struggling and need somewhere to go, need help, or need to just be surrounded by love during the season. Because that is not why the holiday season is hard for me personally. And for some people, that is the very reason. And they've got like empty chairs at their table, or they're alone and they don't have people to go to. And it breaks my heart. I think I get really like giving, let me just toot my own horn, around this season, because it's just like, I can't imagine not having the people that I have in my life. And it makes me want to fucking cry and give everybody $1 million, which I just can't do. So a lot of people know me as the holiday queen. It has been a year and some change of sobriety, and people still know me as that charcuterie board girl. I used to host dinner parties. I used to make up the table. I used to cook. I used to do all types of shit during my drunk era. I was a partier all throughout my life, and then in adulthood, I tried to make it like work for me. And so holidays were always my shit. Every holiday. But I really liked, I loved the little holidays, like 4th of July, banger. Absolute banger. St. Patrick's Day, banger as well. Valentine's Day even, girl. All of them. Cinco de Mayo. I used to bust it open on Cinco de Mayo, girl. I used to find a deck somewhere, loud ass music, got like 3 margaritas in my hand at once. And you know why I think that is? Because I could just blend in and everybody was getting as drunk as me. So for me, all I needed was an excuse to celebrate, because I was already celebrating, term used loosely, just trying to make every day in life this party, that the party had ended a very long time ago. And I could not accept that. I refused to accept that. And I just tried to cram it into every space I could, forcing my friends to go out with me and forcing everyone to be out until 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're staring at me and they're pissed off and they want to go home. And I'm like, where the afters at though? Just maniac. I used to drink like a fucking sailor, which is so hard to picture now. And I was talking about it the other day, and like, I would be so sick. Honestly, it doesn't even matter. I don't need to reflect on that. But like, I was thinking about how sick I would be if I even drank a quarter of the way that I used to drink. Biggest blessing right there, sobriety is. So anyways, I was always extremely holiday oriented. And when I got sober, I was definitely really scared what would happen to me. Because what is Maddee without a party? What is Maddee without celebration? What is Maddee without a shot of tequila? I have no idea. I don't want to meet her, and she sounds really boring, is genuinely how I pictured my life. And it was kind of like the dichotomy of like, I'll never be the same, and then like an excited I'll never be the same. And luckily, I trusted the process, as I often encourage you to, and things just got better for me in my life. And any time that no one cared that I was shit-faced, it was awesome. Like when everybody else is drunk enough to not care that I'm acting a fool or like cross-eyed or like fucking drooling, whatever is going on, I'm content. I love a good distraction. Maybe that's what it was. I wanted other people to be distracted. I'm not sure. Anywho, we all know too, I've touched on this as well, that I severely overcomplicated bringing joy into my life. I was always trying to pull together like a smile, some feeling, and it never fucking worked. And I needed everything to be perfect. I needed the gifts to be wrapped perfect. I needed the drinks to look amazing. I needed the boards to look great. I needed the food to taste good. I needed everything to be perfect so that when I left, I felt satisfied. And it was this chasing a satisfaction in my life that I would never satiate because it was impossible, because I was an addict and I didn't know at the time. But there was no day that I was actually going to walk away feeling full, and I would just be in this cycle over and over again, trying to implement this joy that just like simply could not exist in my life. And that was definitely really fucking hard for me. I would always leave the holidays feeling just anxious. Like, and I shared too that I used to pull away from my parents' house or from my friend's house or wherever and just feel like this pit of doom and despair. Like I didn't collect what I was supposed to. That I didn't get the feelings of the holiday that I was supposed to, or of the party, or of the hangout, or whatever it was. I didn't gain that. And I thought that there was something broken in me, and there was, granted, but I didn't understand that you leave things where they are. That was not something my brain could handle. And it like put me in a lot of despair because I was constantly searching for like that smile. And you know, I do have, okay, there's some man fucking butchering the hedges and I know it because they look like shit when he gets done. So if you hear him, just pretend you don't. We have talked about that whole situation before and the overcomplication of joy and feeling that's all I wanted was that sense of peace that I would never be returned to until like a decent chunk into my sobriety was when I started to understand joy in myself and what life looked like and the natural flow of things without shoving shit into corners and trying to build something out of myself. And I'm not going to continue to talk about that today, but there is episodes if you struggle with that about living by these standards of you're supposed to be having fun, you're supposed to be doing this, you're supposed to be experiencing life in this way. And that was just something that really bogged down my sobriety, my alcoholism, and kept me from getting sober for a long time because I was so scared that I would never feel joy and peace again. And that's just the game too that my alcoholism plays on me. And I think that emotion though goes along with people who maybe don't struggle with alcoholism or addiction the way that I have in my past. I think a lot of people label fun and life in these ways. I just was given the opportunity to discover that in myself because I had to grow and I had to move on in sobriety in a way that made sense to me. So, Jesus fuck, what I was saying, if you want to go watch those episodes, you should, because artificial joy fucking sucks. And I had to learn at some point that I don't have to glorify certain days and holidays and shit the way I used to. There's this blessing in sobriety that every day is just another day that you make it through sober. And it sounds monotonous. It sounds like a boring way to view life, but it simplifies everything for you because, you know, a lot of the sobriety and the stuff I talk to y'all about is about simplifying. And that shit is torturous for somebody like myself, used to be. Now I love the simple life. That shit used to be torturous for me. And for a lot of people outside of addiction. That's what day by day gives me. Is simplification finally in a way that is beautiful and in a way that I can understand, because that was what united me with my normalcy too. For the first time in my life, I just wanted normalcy, and y'all have heard me say that. I wanted to be a normal fucking person, and I could not understand why I could not be fucking normal. And it allowed me to see that people just make it through the day. And there are highs and there are lows and everything doesn't have to be perfect and fun and a fucking disaster for it, like thriving in chaos for everything to work. And that simplification just like, I don't know, it was a big flip for me, my sobriety. Glorifying life and the holidays and certain days like that weren't going to save me. And that was the underlying driving factor, I think, that I had going on a lot in my personal sobriety was that like there had to be something that saved me and made me want to live again, because like I had gone through so many suicidal parts of my addiction and my alcoholism, and then even before that in my life, and I didn't want to accept like at the end how broken I was, and it was super scary for me, and I pushed it all down, and I just was constantly looking for something to save my life. And as silly as it sounds, I just want to be vulnerable for you to understand that I fucking get it. It'd be something as little as a holiday and walking away with a full heart. And it was like slowly over time, nothing could possibly fill me. And I broke eventually. And I just eventually had to learn to leave shit the way it is. And that when you walk away from the day is over. And that also went with working with my anxiety and my mental disorders. And stop getting stuck in these fucking insanity loops. And I'm kind of repeating myself. I know I just kind of said that. Can I not get a FaceTime right now?
Howdy, partners.
And that was also a new acceptance that I had for myself because I couldn't aim to please me anymore. It wasn't fucking working. And I would always come up short. And as long as I was the judge of my peace and my happiness of what I was supposed to be doing or feeling for some reason, I would fail. And I would try to I had this thing with feelings and with emotions. And I think it's because I was so broken, where I would try to cling on to that laugh and cling on to that feeling. This, I guess, is a repetition again, far past when everyone was done. And I would just end up so fucked up because I'm hanging on to it and continuing to drink to maintain this feeling I think I'm gaining. And I just end up torched. So, anyways, all that to be said, my thoughts are all over the place right now. I'm just trying to make it through this, honestly. And I miss you guys, and I really wanted to film today. So, clearly I did my heaviest drinking over the holidays. All winter is when I would drink. Honestly, it was all the time. But I was torched through the holidays, sis. And before I get into kind of some of my experience in my first year sober with the holidays and stuff, I want to express that being sober is the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life ever. Ever. I pray that I am sober for the rest of my life, period. I would not trade anything in the world for my sobriety. That is how I stand by that shit. I worked tirelessly to be where I am today. And I want you to know first and foremost that I am encouraging you to walk through this holiday season sober. Whether you've just gotten sober, whether you're just trying, or whether you want to enjoy the holiday season and not wake up shit-faced every time and enjoy the memories maybe with littles in your life or your siblings or your parents or whoever. And that is the whole point of this, is that you walk away from the holidays feeling what I was chasing. And that's love and gratitude for each other. And that's what I was chasing deep down, and I didn't recognize it as that. And I was just a girl who had very complicated feelings with absolutely no understanding of where I stood. And yeah, so I want you to know that it is not, I'm going to share some things, but it was not the hardest thing on the planet for me to remain sober through the holidays. And that was because of the fact that I put sobriety first. And I've told y'all that if you are struggling and you're just trying to make it through a certain time period, to remember that shit comes first. That's how it has always been since I got sober, and that is why I am sober today and why I enjoy my sobriety. Because if I wasn't happy, the sobriety still came first, and I knew how to push and learn for joy. And that wasn't something that I was just handed in sobriety, was joy and peace and all this shit. That was something that I had to work for to make sobriety not insufferable and horrible for me. Because that's what I always pictured sobriety to be, was that punishment, and that I was going to hate my life. And that's just not the case. So if I start to sound a little pessimistic about the holidays, I am doing this I'm sharing these things to just be vulnerable with you guys so that you don't feel crazy, or so that maybe you don't get shit-faced this holiday season, because it is so worth it to remain sober. And I will get into some tips and tricks, because far past just the major holidays is a lot of partying and Friendsgiving and holiday parties and work parties and this and that. Blackout Wednesday, we will discuss. And yeah. But last year was my first holiday season sober. And now I think this is a lot aimed for the girlies in a way. Not to run you off if you're a boy listening to this, but I think a lot of girls understand the importance of setting a table and pouring that glass of wine. So a lot of my traditions were based in drinking. I heard people in the rooms talking about how difficult the holiday season was. And I knew, because I was so loved, that I just didn't give it a second thought. And yes, my sister has told me, y'all know this, she would whoop my ass. And she can too. She can, I swear. She would whoop my ass if she saw me drinking. And my parents would be beside themselves. So, but that's the thing. It's not just about that, because I can sneak away though. And I have to make sure I have that shit up in my head, because I'm at who I used to be is a liar and a cheater and a hider and a manipulator, and I was getting my way no matter what. If I gotta run hide and then play actress after, I will. And that's how far I went for alcohol. And that's another way for me to be vulnerable. So for you to see that I can be honest with myself, and that is a type of protection that we kind of need going into these seasons. So I heeded a lot of warnings in sobriety. I wanted to be sober. Honestly, I didn't have a choice. That's what it was. I didn't have a fucking choice. You're welcome. Love you. But I didn't realize until I guess we'll start talking about Thanksgiving. Until I got to Thanksgiving, that all of my traditions were based in drinking. And I had war flashbacks when I sat down to write this. And some of the stories that I have for you, I simply cannot tell because they involve family members or just like something that I shouldn't share on the internet. And some of my craziest stories come from holiday times. And it used to be a thing. My sister and I would get up, go to my parents' house, and I would finish a bottle of champagne. I don't even like champagne. I do not like bubbly because you can't chug it, and it like how much I was drinking, like I need smooth liquor to like be able to continue to drink more. And I would finish a bottle of champagne before we're even like done cooking. For women in particular, a lot of people recognize their alcoholism through cooking because they have this bottle of wine happening in the kitchen, and like that's what they look forward to in their day. And like I won't dive too much into it, but I think that's really real. I think that I was a psychopath, a monster, if you will, like crushing liquor, but it wasn't my breaking point, but I totally partook in that shit. Are you kidding me? I loved being in the kitchen and drinking. That was my shit. And so when I got to my parents' house that first Thanksgiving, and I don't want to make this sound like so dramatic because at the forefront of my brain, I had protection over myself. I asked for protection when I woke up, and the only thing in my brain was making it through this day sober. And, you know, I was gaining expectations for myself that I hadn't had, that I would come home sober that night no matter what. And I kind of like assessed my pain at this time. I would assess the way I felt because that's the type of shit that I know is going to bite me, and why if I ever ended up drunk, that would be why. Because I don't understand what's happening and I can't get honest with myself. And that was a really big like trigger, I guess, at the beginning. Every time that I felt like I wanted to drink, it was associated fully with the way I felt. It wasn't ever my environment because I'd be out and about amongst like a lot of liquor and other substances that I loved deeply and was able to make it home. But then I'd be alone feeling a certain way and almost pull my car into the brake or some crazy shit like that. So I just felt like a pit in my stomach when I got to my parents' house this last Thanksgiving, because I knew that I would never be the same again. And it was another example of things never being the same again. And that's a hard thing to explain. That was another driving factor in my triggers and in learning myself. I struggled whenever I could stop and see things that would never be the same again, new circumstances, and I'm being put in as a sober person that I typically would never fucking be sober for. Everything, literally ever, going to the grocery store. Like, come on. And that's because I have a tendency to self-sabotage. I did. That is something I work on now, and I actually like see signs of that sometimes. But that was a big part of my life, was this self-sabotage, that instead of, in a diseased brain, instead of seeing that I've come so far and that I get this opportunity to experience the holidays in a different way, instead I'm devastated that it's not the same. And I really struggled with change, which is in such a weird way to explain, because I moved all over. I traded this, I traded that, I moved here, I did that. None of that was hard for me, but change in my substance use and what I was putting in my body and my daily routine of keeping myself at this level was like just a change that obviously is just getting sober and was super difficult, but I don't know, I didn't like being reminded of that in early sobriety. And it's like, I think I want to drink, but really I want it all to be the same again. And I think it's because I felt this pressure, because everybody is enjoying their time. They're having a drink, they're laughing. And I feel like the small pit in me where naturally I'm lovable, I'm fun, I'm bubbly, I have a good time. And I wasn't experiencing those feelings. And I felt like I wasn't having enough fun, which is another common theme in relapse and in all of that, is like, I felt like I wasn't providing for others, in this way. And it broke my heart every time that would happen. And I had to learn to live with that, especially when I did not understand my mental disorders and was sober. It was like a weird crossover period where like I wasn't providing for other people. And I had to learn to live with that, because that's not what life is about, unfortunately. And that is a gift, to be able to provide for other people. That's, again, something that we gain through sobriety, something that we work for. It's a gift to be able to give and to be a safe space for people and to provide fun and laughter and all that shit. And that comes with a healthy brain that I did not have at the time. And I was only a few months sober while this was happening. I knew it's kind of like meeting the right person, like, and that's how I felt with sobriety. I knew that this was my answer. I didn't want to do it, but I knew that being sober was going to be hopefully the rest of my life. And if not, it was going to be a battle for the rest of my life, whether I went back out or whatever. And y'all know I'll never say that, because like I am a diseased person at the end of the day. And like I can hope, I can wish, I can pray, I can work hard on the goal being forever. I can't make any promises though, because I'm a fucked up person. And like, yes, I have wraps on it now, but anyways, I think it was just that day was the first time that I was presented with a trigger that I couldn't run from, because I had experienced other kind of triggers. And when you first get sober, you don't know what that means. Now I won't share what a few instances are with me, but like, you don't know what really drives you to drink. You don't understand yourself yet. And so I could just know, I had like a feeling that I wanted to drink. And so I would just leave or run from like wherever I was. And that wasn't an option on this Thanksgiving day. And, obviously in retrospect, I wish that I would have voiced my feelings. I was in a room of people that loved me deeply, very deeply, and loved my sobriety just as much as I did. And I had all the opportunity in the world to be vulnerable. But again, I wanted to give. I didn't want to take. And that is okay to be in a position where you need to take and where you need to ask for help and other people need to be there for you. And that's a pillar in my sobriety now, because I know when to ask for help and when shit is overwhelming, when things are too much, and it's okay. I'm just a person. It's actually a huge strength, and something that I do admire about myself now is that I know when to stop. And obviously Thanksgiving is more about Blackout Wednesday, and the Thursday night following. So the Wednesday before, I think I worked and I just like barely skated through. I used to love Blackout Wednesday. And let me tell you, if you are newer to sobriety and you feel the way I do, where it felt like true love, like that sobriety is your answer, you're an alcoholic, you're an addict or something's wrong with you, I recommend not going at all. I recommend caving up, because that is a moment of temptation right there, like just written all over it. But if you're somebody who's just looking to get sober and trying to remain sober through the holiday season, maybe go with some protection. And this podcast isn't for like perfect tips and tricks on how to stay sober, but always take the car, always drive. I will say that much. You are not catching me going out not driving anymore. That is not how I operate. And so I think that's really important. And then emphasizing that whenever I would go out, I would get dressed up really nice, and that would be my favorite part of the night. Go show it off, and then be okay with that being like the point, which is shallow and stupid. But as a girl, you understand that can be the point. And I think it's a healthy way to do it, because your expectancy of the night or whatever isn't dimmed. Because on nights like Blackout Wednesday, you can't expect to go have a good time with your friends. They might be blacked out. It's Blackout Wednesday, like same with like St. Patrick's Day and like these certain holidays. Because you might have a good time for a little, but y'all already know my rule is once I see people, it's obvious to me that they're shit-faced and I can't take it anymore, I'm out. And I think expectancy needs to be really low in terms of going out. And to this day, y'all, people got to get me out. I'm not going out. I experience joy in my life in so many other ways and facets while the sun is out during the day. That is how I live my life. But once in a while, I gotta go show out, and I have a good time and I laugh and I giggle, but I don't try to fit into who I used to be. And that was a lot of learning and trial and error, and outgrowing your old body and becoming someone new is a tricky situation. And you often want to fall back into those old patterns and old ways when you're out, and this yearn again to provide that you don't have anymore. And we provide for people in new ways now. So the reason I tell you about that day and all the triggers associated, I was ill prepared. I didn't think I needed to be prepared. At the beginning of my sobriety, it was all I could think about for so long. And I came on here and I voiced it about how I didn't think that itch to drink would ever go away, or like that's all my brain thought about constantly was alcohol. And it was so loud and so constant. And like I knew if somebody was drinking in the room, and it was just like I was in a relationship with alcohol and it was always the loudest thing. Which sucked. It was fucking tormenting. Like, I can't lie. As much as I love sobriety and I love to encourage you, it sucks, and that's all I can say about it. But the other reason I tell you that is because of those feelings that night. Y'all know the break. Shout out if you know the break. J.I. Shout out, girl. And this was back when the break, it has got more poppin' recently. The break used to be one of my watering holes near my parents' house. That girl would see my face and just keep pouring me tequila shots, and then we just close out at the end, give me some for free, for the low, and I'm stumbling out of there to literally drive home, but okay. And it always gave me this comfort, and no one would bother me. Dark, decrepit bar. People were drinking as much as me, and it just like, I just had this feeling that I wanted to go there really bad and give everything up. Granted, it had only been a few months in to sobriety, so I was in a very vulnerable place. And the only reason that I didn't was because, yes, even though I was panicking and I was feeling these very real emotions towards alcohol, and i.e. towards myself, and those two things are so synonymous to me in my life about the way I feel about alcohol and myself. Because I braided myself into alcohol and into substance, into the way that I feel about myself, the way that I am. It's a direct correlation of how much I drink and the way that I feel. And whilst all of this is occurring during the day, I take a moment to stop and to think, this day is about giving thanks, though. This day is about gratefulness, period. That's what today is about. I can get behind that shit. I was on my gratefulness train at this point, y'all. And gratefulness has carried me through a lot of my sobriety, a lot of my hard times, a lot of my good times, just gratefulness. And I was able to take a moment to count my blessings. And I say this to y'all all the time, but I mean literally sitting at that table with my family. Somebody who's healthy who used to not be. Somebody who's got medical issues who's surviving shit countlessly and is my best friend. Two beautiful parents that love each other. One of my best friends. A lot of people. I guess I shouldn't list what's happening, actually. But I'm sitting there counting each blessing, and I'm making it to 10, to 12. And this was the day that tool was born for me, that I would utilize that tool whenever I got discouraged. And people say count like 3 things you hear, 3 things you see, or whatever, when you're experiencing anxiety and stuff. And I utilized that tool before, but I started to use this all the time, because I'll say it again, like I say every fucking 5 episodes, that anxiety cannot live in the same brain as gratitude. Your brain doesn't work like that. If you can fill yourself with gratitude, you can get rid of the anxiety. And so everyone's talking and laughing. I'm not providing, but I'm sitting there and I'm counting. And it was a beautiful moment for me. And I remember having the thought of the break in the back of my head the whole time. And so I finally, too, this is the first time I think all of those meetings and all that shit had paid off, and I put it into action and thought, I need to be prepared to go home, though. And I was always really scared of the nighttime in early sobriety. That was always treacherous for me, because, like, how do I survive another night of fucking pure tossing and turning? And, like, it makes me so sad to think about how things used to be for me. But I was rightfully so scared. And I decided that I would take my Christmas tree from my parents' house and set it up that night. Some of you might remember that TikTok. And just make it through another night sober. And I kept saying that shit to myself over and over. And I kept hearing people in the room say to me, whatever it takes, no matter what, whatever it takes. And I knew that I could be whatever it takes. I knew that I could provide that for myself. And it kind of like gave me this mission of understanding. And it took so much for me to understand how beautiful that these holidays are. And like getting back down to the whole point took so much like triggering situations and brain function and whatever, but I finally had narrowed it down to like, I'm here to be blessed and to be grateful, and that like to create new tradition. And it was about opportunity finally versus a pain of change. Things were now kind of getting to a place of opportunity. And so I went home and I put up that damn Christmas tree and I made a mocktail and I watched a Christmas movie and I slept like a fucking baby that night. And that's because I didn't care that I didn't provide. I didn't care that I didn't leave satisfied with this feeling of what this big day is supposed to be. I was so filled with pride and joy that I had made it through that day sober. And I felt like I was free floating. I felt alone. I didn't reach out to my sponsor. I didn't reach out to people. I felt like the rooms had left me in this weird way. Like, I don't know. I just felt like in danger. Like, I don't know how else to word that. But that's what I was left with, was pride. And I think it's important to know that that does occur in your body after everything's said and done, that you will just be proud of the things that you've done. And it'll be enough to not have that drink. Now, we're already at 50 minutes. I was going to get into some Christmas stuff too, because I'm going to be posting this a week after Thanksgiving. So kind of pointless that I said all the Thanksgiving shit, but that can also equate to Christmas. But one of my favorite tools that I implement now, and this year will be a lot different for me, I know. Like, I have been around my family a lot and in a lot of drinking environments and stuff, and it's very thankfully normalized for me, and I don't struggle really in that like temptation anymore. I just love my life and I love who I am and I love the people around me. But I did this before Rainbow Kitten Surprise. I did this before any concert, any like more big event. Okay. Not like small concerts, but like big things going on, or going out for somebody's birthday, like on King Street or like some shit like that. I always meditate. Call me a cheeseball if you want. For you, this could be prayer. I utilize prayer. I pray and meditate and get to this state of like flow. Okay. Cheesy. Where I can like feel my third eye and I can like feel my body tingling, and it's just me in like this like state where like I know that abundance comes to me and I flow, like, and I am meant to be alive and I am meant to be exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that's sober, and that's working on myself and loving others, and that's where I'm meant to be, period. And it puts my brain in that state, and it allows me to have a lot more fun. I think it's like a version of high, maybe. I don't know, if you will. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's now my drug of choice. I don't know. But that is something that has really helped me to enjoy my time and to take away the stress of performance in this way, of like trying to fit into who I used to be. And it's been a while since I felt that way, but I still utilize that just to get the most fun out of shit. And so I know beyond a doubt that I am protected. And that's an important way to walk around as a sober woman. It's through protection, and whether that's God or the universe or fucking Allah, whatever that is for you, there's like this blanket of like grace and protection and like dignity that you need to wear, and like wear it like so honestly that it's like coming from your core, and that like That was so fucking cheesy, but it's a true blessed way to live. I gained so much in my life through that. Now, if I am out and about doing certain things, whether it's a holiday party or whatever, I take a moment if I need to. Going for a walk, going to sit outside, sitting in the bathroom for 10 minutes, going and calling a friend for a minute, just like not even to talk about anything, just like ask them about their life or something like that. I utilize that tool a lot, just like taking a break. Sometimes you just need it. And that I think goes a lot for people with mental issues too, that maybe struggle with socializing during the season or feeling like they're enough or whatever, is just taking moments. It's a good reminder of like centering. And that was a tool that I really had to work on, that I've talked to you about before, of centering and rebreathing and like being in this moment now and aiming to just be in the moment. That called for remembering that I am there and I exist. And that was an issue from psychosis on, where I had a derealization thing and I had to have reminders that I'm like alive and like being perceived. Like that's crazy, but I think that people can use that for mental health stuff too. And it just, if people are overwhelming, you don't have to be an alcoholic and addict to utilize these tools. And I already talked about escape plans if you need to leave places, and I always go to more meetings leading up to events. Even if I feel like I don't need it, I just do. I did it before the fucking Jonas Brothers. Like, those bitches were wasted, though. I had a great time at Joe Bros. That was so fun. I don't think I've talked to y'all about that since then. But, and it's a good push when you're in environments like this to learn to vocalize the way that you feel. Because people are there for you more than you think. And I struggle with that. I didn't think people were there for me. I didn't think people wanted to hear my bullshit because I was crazy. And so I never voiced the way that I felt. Instead, I would just like be in this agony or like this like fight or flight mode instead of voicing my opinions. And a lot of that I think comes from my history with men, and my history, other stuff in my life. I think that does come from there. But at the same time, I didn't ever want to be too much. And some of those traits linger today, where I struggle to say how I feel. And it feels sacred to me in this twisted, fucked up way where I used to like love pain. And I don't know. That's like some Stockholm shit, honestly. But this is a good time for you to learn to voice your opinions and gain trust for other people, because they do love you and they want you to remain sober through the holidays. And it boils down to telling people that too before you leave. I think this really goes for people who are just like, maybe who don't struggle and just trying to make it through season sober, but telling people beforehand, hey, I'm not drinking today and I mean that. Like, I will leave. Like, you're going to piss me off and I need you to be there for me. When you voice things to people in a way where you say, I need you to be there for me, they're not going to make you drink. You can say, I'm not going to drink today, and then they're going to have you drink later. But if you're honest and for real about that shit leading up to it, that is a bad friend. And that friend doesn't want to be a bad friend. And people know that innately, to not push you to drink after you've made a statement like that. I'm not saying be a bitch, but be protective. That protection again, protective over you and your state of mind and what you want out of the season and out of your life and out of your time with your friends. I just learned that the second I voice things, I genuinely feel better. Now I know that, even though I say I still struggle, that's just me being vulnerable and honest, that sobriety is not all shits and giggles, and I am not perfect in my mental stuff. Even though I strive to be, I'm not. And that's just the way that life is. It doesn't deter me, and it doesn't drag me down, and it doesn't make me wish that anything was different. It's just the way that life works. And another point, if you struggle, you don't have people to go to, you're looking for stuff. First of all, if you're in the rooms, there are so many opportunities during the holiday season to go be with people. Anonymity though, but if you know me in real life, I can help link you to those situations. But I always aimed for helping other people in the community too. That went through like little holidays over throughout the year kind of, and different seasons in the year. But whether that's you taking food to your neighbors or looking for the countless people that need help in your area at this time is a good place to put your energy towards. And when you're helpful, y'all already know, you leave feeling so amazing. That is a tool that we utilize here on this podcast, girl, is helpfulness, because we live a life of service, because that's how we are meant to live. Because in a selfish way too, that's what brings us peace, is helping others. And it's another kind of important thing if you do suffer from alcoholism, from addiction, and you have to remain sober through the season. I would always list out why I got sober. What are the reasons, the actual reasons that I am sober, and keep that in my back pocket. Because when you look at a piece of paper that says so you don't kill yourself, like crazy reasons that you got sober, and you look at that on a piece of paper and you look at a drink, things start to click in this more normalcy way, where other people, view that, they're like, what the fuck? But like, somebody who's an alcoholic, like, we're tied to that shit. It is so different. And keeping that on me literally at a lot of times during my sobriety was very helpful, but also keeping it in the back of my mind over and over. Why am I sober though? Why? And it answers so many of the questions if you're in a tricky state of mind where you feel like you could slip. It's important to keep the goal bigger than the temptations in your brain. As an addict, that's what works for me, because like I've said for the 50,000th time, we have a different brain. And the whole point is that what you want moving forward is bigger than that little drink down here. And that can be tricky, because sometimes the drink feels really, really big and the goal feels really small. But if we're constantly in our brain hammering in what we want out of ourselves, out of our future, out of our health, out of our mental health, out of everything, our spirituality, if that's what's most important to us, this stays small. And sometimes that takes readjusting. You might need a minute. You might need to step outside. You might need to meditate longer. You might need to pray more. But that's what it takes. And that's why here for me, it's no matter what. It's at all cost. But I will touch, because Christmas is different for me. Christmas, we are coming on 1 year of Allie's death. I have been honestly fucked up about it recently. And we all know my beautiful, sweet Allie girl passed away December 19th last year. And I was early into sobriety, and all I could think about was her. And we couldn't bury her for a few days because it was like that season, and we had to wait till after Christmas. And so everything, every day, every moment, every breath was about her. And trying so hard to heal through her. And I know she wanted me sober. And I'm going to try not to get too emotional about it today, because I have been working really hard on this, because we're nearing that time, and grief feels like it just happened though. Like all this time can pass and I feel that same fucking pit in my stomach about it. And I was very vulnerable with y'all about the way that broke me, and the way that I felt like she took a piece of all of us with her. And it was honestly, one of the most devastating things that has ever happened to me in my entire life. And that holiday season was a blur, but in a good way, because of the fact that I had to face losing her. And so early into my sobriety, I could only focus on a moment at a time. And I let her be my teacher, and I allowed her into my heart and into my space and into my life. And I didn't blame her. And I asked her to help me, and I looked for her everywhere. And I shared that she's so beautiful, that she was everywhere, and she was in a lot of beautiful stuff. She still is to this day. I love her so much, but it should have been a really triggering day, Christmas, and it was a lot different. I think my Christmases will always kind of revolve somewhat around Al now. So I just had to stay sober for her. And when you lose somebody like that, it elicits this feeling of gratitude for everybody else. And I suffered, y'all know it, for a long time after that like my phone would ring and I'd be really scared that somebody else had passed away. And it was really a scary time. And I just was like looking at people's locations and like making sure everybody was safe, and like making sure my friends were actually okay mentally. And it called for me to take a lot more and to like really tunnel into that moment and just be grateful that I'm alive and that the people around me are alive and that I get to be filled with so much because of them. And the last few weeks, I think about her a lot and I dream about her a lot. And she will always be with me. And she's a big part of my life. She's a big part of who I am. And losing her changed me forever. You know, I'll never be the same person that I was when Allie was alive, I think. And not in a bad way. We just become new people sometimes. Things shape us. There was other shit in my life too that I was never the same after it. And I had to choose to make something beautiful of that though. And the day that I found out about Allie, I drove straight to my fucking meeting and found my sponsor and was just like, I don't know what to do with this information. Like, and I don't know, something took over and, you know, call it God, the universe. Maybe it was Allie. I don't know. Call it what you will. But something took over that was like, you need to go to your people, and people being like my AA people. And I don't know how to say it's like an anonymity words, but like it's true. And that's who I had to go find. And I think that it saved me and saved my sobriety. And I knew that if I was going to drink, it couldn't be over Allie. And we're not here to talk about that today, but I did want to touch on it because I wanted to be transparent that around this time of year, shit has just not been the easiest for me in that. And I want to duck off and not talk about it and not be vulnerable about it. But yeah, that shit is just fucking heartbreaking. And y'all remember how long it took me to like make strides in moving forward. And I felt guilty for, I just couldn't leave her. Like I couldn't leave that day. And I'll sit here and I'll talk about this shit forever and I can't. But again, beautiful things are born out of pain. And as cheesy as that fucking is, that has been a huge thing in my personal life and in my personal sobriety, that anytime something devastating is going on, or a hard holiday, or even a holiday that's already triggering, etched in now, one of the worst experiences of my fucking life and most fucking traumatizing things that's ever happened to me. But there's so much beauty to be learned. And that, again, is us searching for opportunity. And that's what holiday season is about. If you need to change and you don't want to drink and you need to move forward, you can see what I did. And that's about opportunity and things being new for us. And these traditions and this way that I live my life now is exciting for me. I'm excited to make these new traditions and these new things in my life that aren't revolvent around being shit-faced and getting to honor Allie during Christmas. So I think maybe we'll talk about Christmas again when we get closer, because there's like holiday parties, and I think it's, for me, Thanksgiving is more triggering, I think, than Christmas, and I think that's probably because of Al. But and I love that Allie does not trigger me to drink and is the exact opposite for me. I adore that, and it has always been that way with her, and that's just fucking such a testament to who she was as a friend to me. And yeah, I made it through without bawling my eyes out. Are you guys proud of me? So yeah, we'll touch again maybe, but I just wanted to share a little bit about the way I was ill prepared for some holidays, and that you can make it through sober and it is so worth it. And drinking in the kitchen and making shit is fucking meaningless. That's not where joy, that's not where peace is. And I don't mean that to comfort you. I mean it to say I tried to do that too. And real joy in all this shit in life is so much simpler than we make it to be. So I urge you to hold your loved ones tight and to simply be grateful for what you have this season. So sorry for that episode. I jumped around a lot, but I love you guys and I hope you have a great week. Bye.